welcome to Mountain Valley Today. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us. And today I have a special guest, Mr. MtnVHam, who's a city councilman currently in Fort Payne and running for re-election. So Mr. Ham, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So this is your first term.
Yes, I'm completing my first term.
And you still have hair?
I still have hair. Actually, someone asked me when I announced to run for re-election, had I hit my head again? And of course the answer was yes, I have hit my head again.
Have hit your head again. Well, we'll talk about several things you've experienced as you got involved in politics this past year. But for the viewers out there who may not know you, tell us a little bit about you. You know, what you do for a living, about your family, just who you are.
Okay. Well, my name is MtnVHam. I'm pretty much a lifelong resident of Fort Payne, other than the time that I spent in the United States Marine Corps back in the 80s. I'm in the hardware business, have been most of my life other than a brief stint away. Like I say, I've been doing that a long time, so that gives me a lot of access to the public. I have just a wonderful family. My wife Lisa and I have been married for 14 years. We have three grown boys, Nick, Jake, and Thomas. We're very proud of them. Nick is a Shelby County Sheriff's Deputy. Jake is in the fire service and paramedic, and our son Thomas is in the United States Marine Corps.
Wow, that's great. All of them giving back and serving our country and in the communities which they live. That's really special.
Yeah,
really
we feel real blessed to have sons with that kind of heart for service.
Well, you know, that comes from good parenting, I always say. Tell us why in the world you ever decided to get into politics, because you've completed your term, first term. I'm just completed my first term. So why did you decide politics was where you needed to serve?
Well, I've always, for many years, served Fort Payne in other capacities. I served as the president of the Fort Payne Athletic Booster Club for about 6 years, and just really enjoyed that and got engaged with the people. And my dad served on the city council back in 2000 until he passed in 2002 in midterm. Just from watching what he did and seeing the good that he was able to help accomplish, it kind of put that desire in my heart.
Yeah.
But I waited until my kids were older, until they were finished with school. They had moved out of the house so that I could not miss that time at home with them. Yeah. And then in 2012, when our youngest son graduated high school and went off, I decided that was the time.
That's the time.
Yes.
Well, what have you learned? Now, most people talk to me about it, and they're like, what did you expect? There's such a huge learning curve. I don't think people really understand when you're not an elected official. Once you become elected, there's a lot to learn.
Absolutely. You know, I definitely saw things differently prior to being elected than I did after being elected. I thought I had a pretty good idea of what things were like in Fort Payne and how things ran, but once I got involved and got into the inner workings of it, it's a lot more than I thought. And you're right, there is a very steep learning curve, and even being in business for all those years, you kind of run the city like a business, but you kind of can't at the same time.
That's exactly right.
So,
a lot of people don't realize that. They think you should do it run just like a business, and there's a lot of things people don't understand. And one of the things that Mr. Ham has been able to do is he is a certified elected official. Why don't you tell them a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course, when you become elected in a municipality, you go for some required training. There's a certain amount of required training that you have to go to. And I really got a lot out of that, and found out about the CMO program. So I just started signing up for the classes, and it took me about 3 years to get through the 40 hours that are required to do that. And I'm really proud of that. I probably haven't told enough folks about that, but it's some pretty intense training. And what that did, it allowed me not only to be better informed myself, but I was able to bring that knowledge and that information back to our city, share it with our other council members and our mayor and our clerks and those type folks, our city treasurer, and it helped them do their jobs better as well.
And those classes are offered all over the state. Some of them are virtual. Some you have CDs you go through. Some you actually go sit in workshops.
That's right.
And you're able to have some roundtable discussions. I've been to all the municipal conventions that the League of Municipalities put on every year, and you want to get a wealth of knowledge, go talk to some other fellow councilmen and mayors who are elected, serving all across the state of Alabama. And, you know, really, we have it pretty good where we are.
We really do, and the roundtable discussions that we had at those seminars and those training sessions were probably my favorite part. For that reason, you could sit down with elected officials from other cities and discuss the problems that you're facing in your own city, and see how they're dealing with those. Because we all have the same problems.
Yes.
All cities have basically the same problems. So that was really a great source of information and kind of figuring out what worked for them and what didn't work for them, and we were able to share also what worked for us and what didn't work for us. So,
well, I've been an educator for 33 years, and I've always, if someone's in the field of education and they've done what I'm doing and they're successful, I want to learn from them.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what you were doing and what I was doing as well, going and learning from someone who's in the trenches in the same shape we are, same boat we're rowing.
That's exactly right.
Well, I know that from going to those classes, you've learned a lot about budgets.
I have.
A lot of people think, well, I want my road paved. Well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? So why don't you share with them your take on budgeting?
The city and the municipal budget process is not that much different from a private business budget. I mean, it's about income, revenue, and expense.
That's true.
We have just a fantastic city treasurer, Jessica Moses, and she brought in kind of a new budget process for us. I went through my first budget with the previous city treasurer, and it was okay, but we have such a wealth of information and history now to go by that we didn't have before. She has helped our department heads really be able to come up with a preliminary budget for their departments that just wasn't that way before. And that's only helped our city.
Yes.
And of course we...
Better utilization of the funds you have.
Absolutely.
That's exactly
absolutely.
Right.
And you can see trends, you can see the way we do it now, you can see the trends, and you're able to set a much more believable, for lack of a better term, budget than we could originally. So I give her the credit for that. She's an ace, I guarantee you. But we did make tremendous strides in our budget. My first year we came in and we had approximately a $1.4 million deficit in Fort Payne for a couple of different reasons. We went to work, and within a couple of years we had balanced it, just from changing some things, changing the way we were paying some people, some of the compensation packages that weren't exactly right, mainly in our public safety. And then just looking at things we were doing. And this year, our 2016 budget, this past year, we had a $450,000 surplus. So
well, and that's one thing I don't think people realize. There's a separation of responsibilities between mayor and council.
Absolutely.
And one thing I was always proud of is the financial fiduciary responsibility to have leave the city in good financial shape. That is the responsibility of the councilman.
Absolutely.
The mayor runs the day-to-day operations, but the council members are the ones who are in charge of the finances.
That's right.
And so I was always proud of our accountant that we had and someone we could deal with and make sure we understood where the money was going, how it was going there, and you know, it's a lot more money than I'm used to dealing with in my checking account.
I don't have quite as many zeros in my checking account as what we're dealing with in the city. Not on that side of the decimal point anyway.
That's exactly right, exactly right. Well, now, you guys in Fort Payne, you are assigned certain different departments that you
Correct.
work with to help the mayor.
Yes.
So tell us what you were over and what you were able to work through and learn as you were dealing with those different departments that you were over.
Okay. I chaired two different departments in the city. That's the Parks and Rec and then the Fire Department. And I'm really, really proud of the accomplishments that we made over the last 3.5, nearly 4 years in those departments. Our Parks and Rec is playing now a tremendous part in tourism in our city, but through bringing in these competitive sports tournaments into our complex. I think my first year on the council, we had 6 tournaments hosted in Fort Payne to bring folks into money that are going to spend money on food and gas and hotels and that type of stuff. in 2016, when our fall leagues are over, we will have hosted 37 tournaments.
Wow, that's an increase.
It is.
That's a huge increase.
When you think about these folks bringing their kids to play in these tournaments, you got mom, you got dad, you got grandma, you got grandpa, you got brother, you got sister, and those folks have got to eat somewhere. They've got to stay somewhere. We've got sporting goods stores. They're going to go there, going to spend that. So it's been a really great addition to our tourism in Fort Payne, and that's something that we want to continue. We see bigger and brighter things on the horizon there, and we've got some great plans for the 2017 budget for our Parks and Rec.
Well, you got to get people to come, and you know, one thing I've always said about our neck of the woods is they have great things that we don't really promote as much as we should. Several of the councilmen from Fort Payne and mayors have come to talk about Fort Payne. One of the things I think is a great is our natural resources, the parks, just how beautiful it is around here. We take for granted when we're going to Gatlinburg. Why in the world are we going to Gatlinburg when we have it all right here?
That's exactly right, and we do, and we're guilty of that. We do take it for granted because we live in it every day. But people do see Fort Payne, Alabama as a destination. It's not a pass-through. There are people who plan their vacations, and Fort Payne is where they want to come for the natural beauty, for the canyon, for the state park, for Weiss Lake that's close by, to see our downtown and our parks and Alabama Fan Club and all those things that we have.
Well, just the way of life.
Absolutely. Our people, our citizens are just the best. You know, there's not just a whole lot of places in the United States anymore where if you break down, somebody's going to stop and help you. But
true.
we're real blessed in this area that's the way we live still.
Yeah.
And that's just the way folks are. And I have my next door neighbors, I got to tell you this, my next door neighbors came from Ohio a few years back to a race at Talladega Super Speedway. They stayed in Fort Payne. They now live in Fort Payne. They loved it so much. They loved the people, they loved the area, they loved the mountains so much that this is where they decided to spend their retirement.
Well, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the tourism director did the exact same thing. He worked for Kodak, and now is a director of tourism and living in Fort Payne. They would vacation here, and now they decided to move here and make it home. So I know you've done a couple of projects at Fort Payne that you're very proud of.
Let's back up one just a second.
Okay.
I didn't get to talk about the fire department.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead.
No, that's fine. I'm very, very proud of our fire and rescue department. You know, those guys, they have a special place in my heart, as do all of our public safety employees. You know, when we're running from the danger, they're running to it.
Toward it.
That's exactly right. And we have made just tremendous progress in our fire and rescue department. We just took delivery of our two newest fire apparatus. We were able this year to buy 2 brand new fire engines to kind of catch us up. We had fallen a little bit behind on equipment because, I mean, these things are $400,000 a piece.
Yes,
so you just don't go out and write a check for those.
Yeah.
But we saw the need a few years back. We started putting money back every year. We put $100,000 back starting when I first came in office, and we got to the point where we had money in the bank to buy a truck. Well, then came the next blessing. We had a grant come through that allowed us to buy a second truck. So we were able to really catch up where we had kind of fallen behind, and we've just got 2 of the finest pieces of equipment that you'll find anywhere now. Our guys, they're getting top-notch training. Scott Westbrook is our training officer there at the fire department. Don Fisher's our chief. Ron Safewright's our assistant. Those guys are leading well. Morale at the department is better than it's ever been, and Fort Payne is back on the map as far as fire and rescue. You know, years ago, when people talked about fire and rescue, they talked about Fort Payne Fire Department, and we are fast approaching that again.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And there's lots of money out there for grants and other projects. You just have to be willing to work toward them.
That's exactly right. That's
Research
exactly
them
right.
and do the work, the legwork to get them, because those are free dollars or matching dollars that really come into your city and offset the expense or the make it more cost effective, something you can afford.
Sure, that's exactly right.
Well, I know there's several projects you were involved with this past term, so tell us about a couple of those you'd like to hang your hat on. We were able to do this. Maybe some lighting?
Yes. We started looking a year and a half or so back at our streetlight situation in Fort Payne and what that was costing us as a city, and we just thought there's a better solution out there. Of course, as LED technology came along, and when it first came out, it was very expensive. It's getting less expensive every day, but we came to a point where we decided that was the route we needed to take. So we hired a company to come in and look at it and do a study, give us some preliminary numbers on what it would cost, what the payback and the cost savings would be, and at that point it was a no-brainer. We knew we were going to do it. So we looked at a couple of companies as far as coming in and making that changeover for us. And in the end, we decided that we would take that project on as a city and not use an outside contractor to do that.
Oh, wow.
So we gained some additional savings, upfront savings there. You know, the companies we were talking with, they were for-profit companies. So, you know, we took advantage of having guys who knew what to do. Fort Payne Improvement Authority has just been fantastic in helping us with that project. They have helped us in putting up some of those lights. We've got roughly 1,000 street lights up now out of the approximately 3,400 we have. So we're about a third of the way through the project, and we're already starting to see some pretty significant savings. I think the last numbers I saw just since we started in about April or May, we've already saved about $40,000.
That is amazing, and probably the illumination from them is much brighter anyway.
Oh, the streets are lit up, and I don't know if you've been in downtown Fort Payne at night lately, but we converted our lamp posts to the LEDs. That was the first thing we did, and it changed the look of downtown Fort Payne. You can have activities down there now just by the street lights, and there's plenty of light, and it's just the most fantastic atmosphere down there. So to me, that's one of the best things about the LED light project we've done, other than the 40,000 we've saved so far.
And you know, those are things that maybe don't make front page news, but
Right.
they're really beneficial to the citizens and beneficial to the pocketbook. But anyway, you were talking about downtown. Tell us about the revitalization and Fort Payne becoming a downtown city and what that's meant to you guys.
Yeah, we're really excited about our downtown project. We were designated last year as a Main Street, Alabama city, and that was an honor. For the first time that we applied, we got accepted. And the Main Street, Alabama folks have just been tremendous to help us and guide us, our board of directors, through that. The Main Street program is a separate entity from the city. Right. But we as a city do support it, right. Financially and in any other way that we can. And we've already seen some of the results. We've had several new businesses open downtown already. Our Main Street board, one of the first things they did was they went out and they started painting some of the facades on the front of the buildings, and some of the empty buildings that we had, they would put things in the window like a display to make it more attractive. And then the next thing you know, we've got folks coming and wanting to open businesses in those places, and we're starting to see more and more foot traffic downtown. But we're in the very early stages of that, and we're already seeing that kind of result. We're just so excited to see what's going to happen as we move through the next couple of years of this Main Street project. But I think Fort Payne's downtown area is going to come alive, which was exactly our goal.
Well, I know from being on the council, there's always things you see you'd like to do in the future. You've got to have a plan, or you don't really know where you're going.
Right.
So what are some things that you see as potential projects you'd like to continue this journey of being a councilman in Fort Payne and seeing through a little bit more?
Well, you know, some of them I've already touched on. Of course, the tourism piece is big for us. To me, that's free money. You know, that's folks living in another place, earning their money there and bringing it to us and leaving it with us. So we've got some things that we're talking about, maybe some bike trails, those type things that will draw more folks into Fort Payne. You know, we just purchased the old the MAPCO. We're working on purchasing the MAPCO property there in downtown Fort Payne, and that's going to be a huge piece for our historic district downtown. It's going to change the whole landscape of that area. So the tourism thing is something I really want us to pursue. You know, we've got companies like One World Adventure and these places who are offering kayaking and hiking and all kinds of instruction on nature, and that draws folks in. So I want to see us focus on tourism over the next few years, because I just think that's something that we can be very successful at with what we have.
Yes.
Industrial
and
recruitment.
it also promotes the parks that we have, connecting
Absolutely.
those two mountain bike trails.
Yep.
People are looking for a destination to go to, and why not right here in DeKalb County, in Fort Payne, Alabama?
And that might be a great slogan. Why not Fort Payne? Why not DeKalb County?
Well, we'll trademark that. How about
There you
that?
go. That's a great idea. Of course, industrial recruitment, jobs is always something, and we've actually been pretty successful in the last 4 years bringing in some jobs. I got some numbers from the EDA recently, just kind of check our pulse to see how we were doing, and in the last 4 years we have added almost 1,000 jobs in Fort Payne in different industries, kind of a wide range of industries. And that brought an investment of over $70 million in our city, in buildings and equipment and things that are going to provide better paying and new jobs. But we're not done. You know, we need to continue that. We've had really good success with smaller industry. You know, everybody wants that home run. Everybody wants that plant that's got 500 jobs or 400 jobs. And yeah, we'd love to have that. But those are very, very competitive. You know, you got to have some pretty deep pockets, and you got to have some incentives to lure them to come to your place. The smaller industries, the under 100 job industries, honestly, they're a lot easier to recruit. We've got a lot of buildings that are empty in Fort Payne from old hosiery mills that are suitable for a lot of those, and so we've been able to place some of those folks in some of those buildings, and I think we need to continue that. That's got to always be on our minds. Retail recruitment. You know, we just announced last month that we're bringing Applebee's to Fort Payne, which was big. We were able to fill up the Kmart building, and we need to focus on growing Fort Payne in a way that folks will come and that it works for us. But I don't want us to outgrow who we are. You know, we have a small town charm that draws people here. So I think we need to be very careful that we don't lose that, but at the same time we do the things that make us as good as we can be, but yet we remain who we are.
Well, what are some challenges you see? Now, I can tell you from someone who comes to visit regularly, the south end of town by the interstate, Kmart, Cracker Barrel. Now that is a nightmare about 4 to 5, 6 o'clock sometimes.
I do my best, especially on Fridays, not to go there, because you can't get around, you can't move around. We've been talking with the state, and especially right there at the intersection where the new Dunham Sports and that shopping center is. We've been working, and I think we have something worked out with the state where they're gonna do some work down there and put in some turn lanes and turn signals and things that will hopefully free some of that traffic up. We're very fortunate to have that many people coming to Fort Payne, and you know, because that means they're coming there for something, and we're hoping that they're coming there to spend money, and based on our revenue that we've seen over the last several months, that's what they're doing. So, you know, I guess we'll just deal with that problem the best we can, and be thankful that we have it.
Yes. Well, I think the new exchange or exit ramp, I guess, at north end of town, when that came through, that was a huge thing to get in Fort Payne.
It was for the north end of town. It helps a lot with our school traffic. You know, I think originally when that thing was designed and when it was originally talked about years ago, it was put there to handle a lot of the hosiery mill traffic. Unfortunately, you know, things like that don't move in a hurry, and it got here after that need was really the greatest. But it does give us another entrance into Fort Payne, another gateway. It gives us another opportunity for some type of business, retail business, hotel, whatever, to locate there. So I see it as another opportunity.
Well, and you should, because I just heard recently about an expansion at one of your area hotels down there, and I think that just goes to show that people are coming, they're staying, they're wanting to be here, and the more people you have, the better, the more money they spend, the more tax revenue, the more money that you've got to do other things in your town.
Just like we talked about in budget. It's about revenue and expenses, and if we can get that revenue where we need it, then it really makes that budgeting process a whole lot simpler.
Well, tell me about your work as a councilman and dealing with the legislative delegation that we have from our neck of the woods, the representatives, the senators, and how important do you feel that is in helping Fort Payne in the future?
Well, we have at Fort Payne, we have just a fantastic working relationship with Nathaniel Ledbetter and Steve Livingston both. They have just been so supportive of everything we've asked them to help us with. And you have to have that relationship. You really need, because sometimes you just need help at that level to do certain things. You know, sometimes people are under the impression, and I was at one time, that everything that takes place at a city takes place at the city level. And that's just not the case. No. You know, we had a situation where we needed to annex some property here a couple of years back. Well, you don't do that as a city. It has to go through the legislature. And so, you know, having those guys there and willing to be a part of our greater plan and seeing our vision has just been priceless. It
really is. And you know, you can get so much more done working together as a group than you can not getting along.
You sure can. You sure can. And I'm very thankful for the relationship we have with those guys.
Well, we've got just a minute or so left. Maybe there's somebody that's watched today, or they're trying to decide between, did I check for this guy or this one? And so what would you say to that voter that's watching today, and they're going to go and vote in just a few short days? Why are you the guy? Why are you the one they need to give another chance to stay in office and do another term?
Well, the people that know me and people who meet me understand pretty quickly that I'm very passionate about anything that I do, anything that I get involved in. And I have developed such a passion for this job. I tell people all the time, I would do it for nothing. I love it that much. I've got a good handle on things. I've been a very, very active member of the council in all areas. So I have a very good understanding of our plan. I have a very good understanding of the vision that we have as a city, and I have a very good understanding of what it's going to take to execute that plan and realize that vision. You know, I don't make campaign promises other than one, and that's that I'll always try to do what's right.
Yeah.
And that's really the only thing anybody should have.
That's the only thing you can really promise.
That's exactly right.
Just try to always do what's right, and even though it may not be popular, if it's the right thing to do and you can sleep at night, that's exactly what you ought to do.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome, and we appreciate you joining. And don't forget, you can watch us on Farmers Telephone TV, Channel 6. We're also on WFPA 1400 in Fort Payne. And you can watch any of our episodes we've aired before on MountainValleyNewspaper.com. And we certainly do appreciate your time today. We hope we'll see you again next time. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again.